Hey, once again, welcome back. Talking about part two today, talking about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam and how they're all connected. I'm going to be posting a picture of this connection in the packets with the forms. I was thinking about drawing it up and showing it as a video, and I was just like, I'll give access to that so they see it. I also kind of made a quick little um, page of information just kind of showing you the connection and also the differences. I'm also going to be talking about that right now today, so you have an idea. And hopefully it makes sense. It is a little bit confusing, but the biggest thing is that these three religions all have a lot of common features of it, and there's a lot of, I think because of all the issues with ISIS, there's been a lot of bad stigma around Muslims in the religion of Islam. And a lot of people think there's a lot of differences between us and Christians, and it really is not. Christians also have done a lot of bad things throughout history. I mean, let's just be honest. If you haven't heard about it, but the Holy Crusades, all the holy wars that they went through for the act of Christendom, and so religion has done a lot of bad things in society. And I know I left off the last video with that question: how do you think religion has impacted society? Do you think it has? And it has. If you do some research, you'll see that religion has formed a lot of external things in our world today, and it's just this just comes with it because people start believing it wholeheartedly, and they're willing to live by it and die by it, and that it's kind of shaped our world, and it's shaped our external features of our world, our socioeconomics, a lot of different demographics in a lot of different regions. So what I want to do is I want to quickly just talk about these three religions, and kind of just give their like and then kind of talk about the ties and differences between these three. And it kind of will be some overlay with some of the information, but for all purpose of this, it'll make more sense kind of this way. All right. So first off, Christianity, and I'm just going in alphabetical order. Christianity is a monotheistic religion, right? Monotheistic meaning they believe in only one God, right? Polytheistic means belief in multiple gods. It's centered around the teachings of Jesus, and the present day of New Testament, which I'll get into a little bit more about the books, the Bible, and the connections of all of that in the Jews and Judaism. Its followers are known as Christians, and they believe that Jesus is the Son of God and the Messiah or Christ prophesied in the Old Testament. The part of their scriptures had the common with Judaism. Okay, so Christians and Jesus Christ as his teacher is the model of virtuous life, and the most importantly, the Savior of humanity who suffered, died, and resurrected in order to bring about salvation to us Christians, and that's why we celebrated Easter weekend a couple weekends ago, right? That's kind of the purpose for that. If you're a Christian, you believe in that. Christians maintain that Jesus ascended into heaven, and most denominations teach that Jesus will return to judge the living and the dead. And the denominations part is kind of a weird thing if you haven't heard about, but it's different beliefs about how to interpret text, right? So there's Catholics, Lutherans, Baptists, Free Methodists, the list goes on, Wesleyans, of different teachings and different ways to interpret the text. So they all believe that Jesus is, the Son of God and all that, but how they interpret the text and how they live their lives and their teachings and all that are slightly different. So just like Judaism, Islam, Christianity is an Abrahamic religion. And that's the one person that we're going to be talking about a lot today is Abraham. He's the person that ties all of these religions together, okay? And it's kind of in a unique way. But as a 21st century, Christianity has between 1.5 billion and 2.1 billion believers in the world globally. And that's about a quarter to a third of the world's population. For this reason, there's a lot of disagreements about the culture and about the religion itself, and that's why there's different sects of it and different denominations, right? And the sacred writing is the Bible. Now, the Bible is the New Testament parts for Christians, the Old Testament parts more of Judaism, and they call their book the Torah. So, Judaism, right? So, what is Judaism? Judaism is a religion that's founded by Abraham and the Israelites. And around 2000 BC, and Abraham kind of is this father of these people, and Canaan, which is around Mesopotamia. Abraham has a son named Isaac, and Isaac fathers a lot of people, and eventually Moses comes out, and Moses takes this law from God. You probably heard about the Ten Commandments, and leads his people out of Egypt, and gives them to a promised land that God promised them, and that is the current day Israel. All right. Now, there's a lot of debate about that area of land. To people, Palestinians or Palestinians occupy that land, and there's been a hot debate even today. If you type in Israeli and Palestinian conflict, you will see hundreds and thousands of articles and different history events that went throughout the years. But basically, this is a land that was promised to the Jews, and the Jews relatively believe that. Now, the Palestinians believe that they deserve the land because they lived there too, and then so there's been political involvement in that. And even right now, there is still conflict that's going on in that land. But technically, that was the land that was promised to the Jews from God, from Moses, and so that's why they feel like that is their land. In 1948, after World War II, after the Jews had that whole issue with Adolf Hitler, the government intervened and declared that Israel would be that place for the Jews, so that they all could live there after the whole concentration camps and all the exile that they had in Germany and in other various places around Europe. So that was a place that was also designated to them by the government. So moving on. So Joshua later led them to the promised land after Moses died, and where they established an Israelite kingdom. And you hear about the King David and King Solomon as these important figures. In 70 CE, their temple was destroyed by the Jews, and they scattered throughout the world. Right, and then in 1948, Israel was formed, and that was formed for the Jews. Jews believe in one Creator, who alone is to be worshipped in the universe, and that's God. And He monitors people's activities, rewards good deeds, and punishes evil. The Torah, which is their book of a couple of Old Testament books, revealed to Moses by God and cannot be changed, so God does communicate with the Jewish people through prophets. Jews believe in the inherent goodness of the world and its inhabitants as creations of God, and do not require a Savior to save from the original sin. They believe that their Messiah will return, and that one day will judge the world and resurrect the dead, and that there will be a new heaven on earth. All right, so their sacred writings, the Law and the Prophets, the Psalms, the Talmud, are others, along with the Torah. All right, so last but not least, Islam. So Islam was founded, and it's a new religion. It's kind of out of our Era 3 timeline, so we've been covering 1000 BC to 500 AD or CE, and right now Islam was founded in 622 CE. But it's such an influential religion that I just tie it into this because it has so many followers as well. So it's founded in 622 CE by Muhammad the Prophet in Mecca. And it's sort of the youngest of the world's great religions. Muslims do not view it as a new religion. They believe it's the same faith that was taught by the prophets Abraham, David, Moses, Jesus. And so they even recognize those characters in the Jewish and Christian sects. Right? So the role of Muhammad as the last prophet was to formalize and clarify the faith and purify it by removing ideas that were added in error. So they have two sacred texts. That's the Quran, which are the words of Allah, the one true God, as given to Muhammad, and the Hadith, which are a collection of Muhammad's sayings. The duties of all Muslims are known as the 5 pillars of Islam, and in there they recite the Shahada at least once. It's a declaration of faith, saying that Allah is the one true God and Muhammad was the last prophet. Perform salah or prayer 5 times a day while facing Mecca. Donate regularly to charity via the zakat. It's a 2.5% charity tax. Some people give more, some people give less, but it's around that percentage average, and through additional donations to the needy. Fast during the month of Ramadan and the month of Muhammad, receive the Quran. The goal is to make a pilgrimage or a journey to the Mecca at least once in your life, if economically and physically possible. So those are the 5 pillars, right? So the Shahada, declaration of faith, prayer, charity, fast, journey, pilgrimage. All right, so those are the 5. Muslims follow a strict monotheistic religion of Allah, who is omnipotent and merciful. They believe that Satan, who drives people to sin, and all the unbelievers and sinners will spend eternity in hell. Muslims who sincerely repent and submit to God will return to the state of sinlessness and go to paradise after death. That's just another like eternal life, kind of similar to like heaven to Jews and Christians. Alcohol, drugs, and gambling should be avoided and reject racism. They respected early prophets Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, but regarded the concept of divinity of Jesus as blasphemous and do not believe that he was executed on the cross. So that's the kind of distinct difference between that and Christianity and Jews. So what are the three? How do these three tie in together, right? That's the whole issue, because you see a lot of common characters coming in. So this is how I explain it, and I'm like I said, refer to the picture in the flow chart that I put on those documents, because that will be really helpful to see. But as I explain this, hopefully it will also give you some clarity. So basically, there's an angel called Gabriel, and he comes to Abraham and says, "You're going to be a father of many nations." And Abraham, who is this in the land of Canaan, during kind of Mesopotamia, sees that and recognizes it. And his wife Sarah are like, okay, we're going to accept this as a prophecies from God, and they keep trying to have kids, and they literally cannot have any kids. Sarah is just not fertile, and they agree upon, in order to fulfill the prophecy, they have a handmaid named Hagar, and they agree that Abraham should have a child with Hagar. So they do. They have a child named Ishmael. Now, Ishmael and Hagar are obviously part of the family, but Sarah is also his wife, and they recognize that still, right? Years go by. Sarah's way past her birthing years, and all of a sudden she has a miracle, and she's now pregnant, all right? And they have a son. Abraham and his wife Sarah have a son named Isaac. Now there's a huge dilemma that comes in, right? Now you have two heirs to the throne, right? You have Isaac over here, who is technically the rightful marriage and son of Abraham and Sarah, and then you have Ishmael, who is the son of Abraham, but is with his mom, who's Hagar, who is not related or not married to Abraham, right? So what happens is that they actually exile Hagar and Ishmael. All right, so Hagar and Ishmael go to a distant land. All right, can't go too far. So they reside somewhere in modern day Saudi Arabia. Okay, Ishmael has direct descent to the Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so you see the connection now there, right? So Ishmael, Prophet Muhammad births Islam, right? He founds Islam, right? Isaac, however, Abraham's son, births many children, okay? He has direct descent to Moses. Now, Moses is a popular figure that you see in maybe movies, in biblical texts, but Moses, he leads his people, the Jews, out of Egypt, right, and to this promised land of Israel, modern-day Israel. And Moses recognized that those laws from God, right? Moses dies, and then later on Joshua, another important figure, leads those people, and years go by. Jesus now is born, right, through Joseph and Mary. This is where it gets complicated, right? So Jesus is born, Jesus dies, he has a following, huge following, right? Jews don't recognize Jesus as the Son of God. Okay, they recognize him as a prophet, as a leader in the faith, but they do not believe that the prophecy was filled in their Old Testament text. They believe that they're still waiting for that. Okay, so they don't recognize the New Testament of the Bible. They recognize the Old Testament of the Bible, and they call that the Torah. Okay, their biblical text. However, there's a sect that comes out, which was formed by the disciples, and a big influencer was Paul, right? Paul and his teachings throughout the time of Rome. They believe that Jesus was the Son of God, okay? And through Paul's writings and teachings and through the discipleship, eventually Rome recognizes Christianity as the official religion, and that makes it emerge and just populate, right? And so now, today, we have a lot of different denominations of Christianity. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of different denominations, but they all recognize that Jesus is the Son of God, okay? And that they're waiting for a new revelation to happen in their Bible, in the New Testament, okay? So those are the connections, right? They're all Abrahamic religions, meaning that they all form through Abraham, okay? Father Abraham. So those are the connections of those three. Those are some of the differences between the three, okay? So please refer to the document. It will hopefully give some clarity and some clarity to the questions you're going to be answering, all right? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. I know it's the end of the week. You're close. You're almost done. You still got your SEL lessons to learn and to and some of your electives still on Friday. But other than that, you're almost done. Hopefully, this video is seeing you in a good state and you're all positive and well. I hope you guys are doing okay. I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, much love. Bye.